We're not trying to do a moderator, so we'll close that and get the program underway on TikTok in 3, 2, 1. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. The news is in for number 45, President Trump. He has indeed scored yet another victory. Now, it might be a small victory depending on who you speak to or how you reference it. Nevertheless, a victory is a victory. President Trump just prevailed in the state of Michigan in terms of its Supreme Court. Remember, there's a host of states seeking to potentially remove Trump from the ballot, suggesting that he is in violation of the 14th Amendment. Well, President Trump just scored another victory in the state of Michigan. So we're going to be asking the obvious question. Should this path be abandoned? In other words, should efforts to remove Trump, citing the Fourth Amendment, is that a waste of time? Is that a waste of government revenue? Or do you believe it is a legitimate path to pursue, having believed that Trump did indeed cause an insurrection violating the 14th Amendment? We're going to take it straight like that. Also, on a side note, and we certainly want to know how you feel about the Supreme Court that's going to hear this, because Colorado has removed Trump from the ballot. So it's going to go to the Supreme Court. I want to ask you folks, do you believe at the end of the day this is a waste of time and Trump's name is going to be on the ballot no matter what? Otherwise, wasting all of this time in these various states, because once it goes before the Supreme Court, if they do forcibly put Trump's name on the ballot, then yeah, it's all for naught. And another question, just one as a side note, the border is all over the news. Caravans coming in the country in large numbers. You got mayors of a variety of border towns all the way on up to New York and Chicago claiming that they're being overwhelmed with immigrants. How should Biden handle this? Where would Trump find himself on this? Would Trump be a better commander-in-chief when it comes to getting the border under control? I think we are past the point of suggesting there is no problem at the border, considering that there are both liberals and Republicans complaining about it. But would Trump be any better at it? Those are what we're going to be talking about today. As always, the program is forever will remain MAGA friendly in its entirety. You know what we say on every program. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome on the program as well. Tap the screen on TikTok. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's hovering around 50 viewers. We generally have multiples of that. Usually we have a few hundred by now. So for you folks watching on TikTok, appreciate if you would tap the screen, get your boy likes up. Eventually TikTok usually comes around. So what do you think? Do you think that the 14th Amendment pursuit of Trump is simply a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer revenue, or is it a legitimate avenue to pursue? On YouTube, that's okay. I obviously can't see. I thought you were talking to me. Okay, all right, I'm seeing that on there. Real quick in the comments, it didn't send me a notification, says Justin Hizzy. I don't know what TikTok does in regards to the notifications. I'm on the backup account. Maybe that has something to do with it for you folks that are watching that normally view it on the Handsome Liberal. This account obviously is titled the Handsome Liberal without the final L. But this is my official backup account. Good test of SCOTUS, says Vaughn. So you believe taking this to the Supreme Court in regards to what Colorado did is a good way to test out the Supreme Court? I don't know. I would submit to you that Trump claimed the election was stolen and tried to take that to the Supreme Court. I would say that kind of tested them out. Obviously, rolling back Roe v. Wade was a big test. There's already been a few trial by fire examinations of the Supreme Court. But yeah, this certainly would qualify as another. I think it's a legitimate avenue. But I will suggest this. Give SCOTUS will give direction. I don't quite get the last half of that in the comments, Junior, but you're suggesting that you do believe, going after Trump for allegedly violating the 14th Amendment, suggesting that he was indeed participating in an insurrection. You think that is a worthy path to go after Trump? All right, and you're not the only one, but there's a hell of a lot of people that's saying it's a witch hunt. So that's what we're here to get your take on both sides. Imagine if they say he is immune to crime, says Vaughn. Now that is a huge test of the Supreme Court, because Trump is stating that on January 6th he had presidential immunity. Therefore, he could not be charged with a crime at all. And Vaughn in the comments is rightfully pointing out, imagine if they say he could do that and he is immune from prosecution, meaning it's impossible for him to commit a crime. That would be interesting. That would be a huge failure of the Supreme Court, in my humble opinion, but I understand other folks think differently. Now, the argument is, on January 6th, Trump truly believed the election was stolen, democracy was under threat, and he was engaging in a protest to defend the democracy of this country, thereby acting in concert with his job as commander-in-chief. So he is suggesting what he was doing on January 6th was in line with the duties of protecting the United States, and there is where he's suggesting immunity. I do believe that's going to take some finagling to get that across. For the simple fact is, if you're suggesting that what happened on January 6th was trying to defend this country against, the election being stolen, against loss of democracy, and then you're completely wrong, I don't know, but I can defend Trump from a different aspect. George W. Bush invaded Iraq and suggested that he was doing that to defend the United States against a foreign enemy. And obviously the weapons of mass destruction turned out to be a bunch of bullshit. So he was wrong, leading to the death of 6,000 something servicemen. He didn't get charged for that. So, I understand how folks feel, but from that standpoint, as bad as it sounds, Trump may have a legitimate argument that I thought I was defending the country from a stolen election. Yeah, I was completely wrong, like George Bush was completely wrong, but a president is allowed to make mistakes. It's a tough sell, but as someone in the comments stated, we're testing the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has a super Republican majority. I do believe it's a possibility that could fly. I do believe if a legal scholar worded it properly, it might fly. It might be able to get through. Looking in the comments, Chris says, you're back on January 6th? Damn, that horse is bloated with maggots. I don't get that. Here's and by the way, appreciate you folks on TikTok tapping the screen, getting near 100, but yeah, something's still going on with the numbers, but I do agree. I do appreciate you folks on TikTok tapping the screen. Now, in regards to January 6th, that subject being a bloated horse with maggots, very humorous comment. If January 6th is a bloated horse, it's an old topic, beating a dead horse, then why is Trump still talking about November 2020? That happened before January 6th. Trump is still talking about it. Now, the argument I'm not a fan of is that a lot of folks on the right, my beloved MAGA, believe that Trump has the right to talk about stuff that his detractors do not. In other words, Trump can bring this stuff up, but when you bring it up, something is wrong. Trump is talking about January 6th and the election that happened before January 6th at every rally. Every public gathering, that man is bringing that stuff up. But yet when someone else does, it's a bloated horse, it's a dead horse, you should be talking about it. I don't understand it. Somebody help me out with that. Looking in the comments, Tammy, appreciate that. Appreciate your support. Always a pleasure, Tammy. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll believe the devil himself before Trump. Yikes. You believe Trump lies that much that you would rather entertain a conversation from Satan? I don't know. Is Trump really that bad? I don't know. That might be a bit harsh. Vaughn says evidence is there that he aided and abetted in an insurrection. 14th, 3, I keep thinking about, well, in regards to the evidence being there that he aided and abetted an insurrection, I do believe that if the 14th Amendment states that you cannot aid enemies of the United States, and him suggesting that he's going to pardon them, performing a January 6th choir song with them, he is on the path to aiding them. However, in Trump's defense, he stated if he becomes president, he would likely pardon a bunch of them. But that hasn't happened yet. He is suggesting he would aid them. We're suggesting he violated the 14th Amendment, which requires him aiding them to be in the past tense. He has not aided them yet. So you can't go Tom Cruise Minority Report on a person and charge them for a crime they're essentially thinking about committing. You know, there's a new bank across the street. They got poor security. I'm thinking about robbing them next week. You can't arrest somebody for what they're talking about potentially doing. He has not officially aided them yet. Now, if you can show where he's putting money on their books while they're incarcerated or giving them free counsel or free lawyers and things like that, the argument could be made. But he certainly has indicated he would aid and comfort them. Now, the comfort claim is different. And I'm reading this specifically, right out of the 14th Amendment, the verbiage that is on Congress.gov's website. So this is not coming from Fox or CNN or MSNBC. On Congress's very website, the portion of the 14th Amendment that is in concern, they say on there that if you aid or comfort the enemy thereof, so anybody who's considered an enemy of the United States, which is the insurrectionist, someone who performs an insurrection is considered an enemy of the United States, if you aid or comfort them. We know what aid means. Comfort could take a variety of meanings. Comfort could simply mean offering them advice or giving them a phone call, see how they're doing. I don't know how comfort would be, how that would be defined. But certainly suggesting that if you become president, you would pardon them. It's hard not to imagine that doesn't give the leader of the Proud Boys, the leader of the Oath Keepers, both doing double-digit prison time. It's hard to imagine that wouldn't comfort them somewhat. Because if you're in federal custody, you got to do 85% of your time. And the president is saying, if I become president, I would consider, then it gives you some comfort. I do have some hope. So the comfort part I can see. Looking in the comments, see on YouTube, Chris says, be well. I can't do this topic again. Would it be more fun if we talked about Hunter Biden's laptop? Now, we talked about the border also. We're going to talk about the 14th Amendment. Or better yet, is it a waste of time pursuing Trump for the 14th Amendment? That's in the news now. So for folks suggesting, well, I can't do this topic, Trump just won in the Supreme Court within 24 hours ago. This is what is currently being discussed across the news wires. Whether you favor Trump, whether you are a detractor of Trump, you watching MSNBC or Fox, they're all talking about this. This is a current topic. This is not a dead horse with maggots on it. He just won in Michigan Supreme Court less than 24 hours ago. So there are some topics that if you favor Trump, you just don't want to hear. I get it, but this is a current topic. Biden on the border also, though. There is no denying what is going on at the border is a complete mess. You're hearing it from both the right and the left. But in your humble opinion, do you see Trump as getting this under wraps? And if so, what do you think he might do? I understand he wants to build a wall. We all realize that. Now, there was a wall before Trump got elected. He wants to build a better, more thorough barrier, but we've always had a wall. We've always had a wall on the southern border. But would a wall reduce literally thousands of migrants coming into this country seeking asylum. Now, remember, to seek asylum, all you need to do is cross the border, walk up to a border patrol agent, and tell them you want to seek asylum. So you're not trying to climb a wall or run through the desert to seek asylum. You want to be caught. So how would a wall stop this? How would a wall stop any of that? I'm asking, would Trump be better at the border than Biden? Tap the screen, get your boy up to 5,000. You know the box is always open. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. Liberals are welcome on the program, but understand MAGA are my preferred guests. Looking in the comments, I don't know what TikTok is doing to the numbers, but we're hovering a little bit less than 100. So it's exceptionally low. I don't know what's causing that. We are going to get rid of that asylum garbage. Now, that's one way. I asked the question, how would Trump be better at the border than Biden? How would he get the border under control as opposed to Biden? Grimace Shake, isn't that McDonald's? The purple character in Grimace Shake says, we're going to get rid of that asylum garbage. That would do it. That would reduce the numbers of folks coming into the border significantly. Simply put, make everybody coming into the country from the southern border virtually criminals, all of them. If you remove the asylum claim, you build a wall, you put the military and border patrol on the southern border, and because this happened under Trump last time, you significantly reduce the amount of ways you can come into the country legally as well. You could really tighten the spigot of entry at the southern border. Plus or minus some threats against Mexico for letting those folks transition through their country. That would be exceptionally harsh compared to the standards we've always had in this country. But that would work. That would work. If you remove the ability to claim asylum, or we're only going to let 1,000 people a month can claim asylum, 100 people a month, whatever the case may be. In addition to Trump suggesting he's going to perform the largest mass deportation in world history or something like that. So you're not letting anybody in, and you're spending a hell of a lot of time finding folks who are here illegally and also kicking them out. You could get it under control. You could definitely get the border under control like that. As I stated, though, and I see in the comments, Grimace says, win mass deportation. I think a lot of folks on the right, my beloved Trump supporters, want the mass deportations. There are folks on the left that want them too, just nowhere near as many. Now, it's one thing to have your, wait a minute, Mojack in the comments. I always see humorous comments I have to respond to, and I'll go right to the box after that, so I see folks in the box. Mojack states, landmines at the border. That's what Trump would do. Is there anybody that believes Trump would place lethal devices at the border designed to maim or injure or even kill folks entering the country illegally? Is there anybody who even supports that? I'd be curious to know. Landmines? Now remember, there are areas around the world that have been mined. Mines go on forever. There are World War II mines still below the sea and still out in fields throughout Europe. You can certainly kill innocent people doing that. Landmines? Really? And I do see in the comments, Vic Perez says Trump, yes. How many folks believe it? I'm curious. We'll go to the box. We want to talk to the one and only Grimace Shake. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Grimace. That is the McDonald's character, right?
Yeah, it's the little purple guy from Happy Meal.
Landmines at the border. What say you?
I think that's kind of primitive. I believe our military is one of the most technologically advanced in the world. We have drones. We have those.
But would you support harming, maiming, or injuring, or even killing folks that enter the country illegally?
Well, that is the reason they do have the wall. The wall is 25 feet tall, and if you fall off of that, it is kind of dangerous, and you are, taking a risk when you're entering the greatest country in the world as an illegal alien. So I do believe there should be some sort of deterrent.
Yeah, I'm not. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% in regards to deterrence. But we're talking about measures to injure, harm, or kill the folks entering. Do you believe some type of physical punitive measure should be used?
Yeah, absolutely, and that would stop it almost immediately. The women and children, they're not going to, come and fight the U.S. military to come get a free Obama phone or free shrimp at a New York hotel. They're going to realize, that passage of free welfare, free money, free social services, it's been cut off.
Give me some examples. Give me an example of some type of device that could cause harm, whether maiming like bear traps or lethal, like what he talked about landmine. Give me some type of advice, some types of devices that you would actually favor, because you said yeah.
Well, I would use drone technology to identify.
That's not hurting the person. Drones are not hurting anyone. You suggesting yes.
And then I would use. What are they climbing up the wall? What are they doing? Are they just standing?
Maybe they climbing under the wall. Maybe they went under the wall.
I think we could electrify the wall.
Okay.
Put an electric current through it. You touch the wall, you get zapped. You can't touch it.
All right.
I think another deterrent would be if you're climbing up the wall. I think you should be eligible to be shot. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone's breaking into my home. I can do that. Why not breaking into my country? Right.
Do we now? There's a lot of countries around the world that have walls and barriers. How many countries actually will shoot you for entering illegal? Does any other first world country do that? All first world countries have an immigration problem. Maybe not as big as the United States due to our large land border, but are there other first world countries that shoot people entering illegally?
I don't know about that. I would have to check on that. When it comes to foreign invaders, if you have foreign invaders coming into a first world country, they're getting shot all the time. Look at Israel; they're shooting invaders.
Yeah, but do you put illegal immigrants, because you mentioned moms and children come across the southern borders, do you put them in the same category as, say, Hamas? You're using the term invaders. You see those folks as an invasion on the United States?
Well, yeah, if you look at the average immigrant, who is it? Is it a kid? No. Is it a mom? No. So a military age male, and he's not even from Mexico. A lot of these people are from Africa. They're from China. They're from, all over the place.
Yeah, that's a
why are they all men?
Well,
why are they all young men?
Okay, that's a fair point to be made, but when you say invaders, we're thinking of people that are coming into the country to do harm. You see those folks coming into this country to deliberately harm it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Imagine if you wanted to invade the United States nowadays. Would you get AK-47s and ships, or would you just say, I'm seeking asylum? What would be more effective if you had a large group? I know what would get you a lot closer to the population, would get you a lot more closer to the target. It wouldn't be by
what harm are... Okay, I'm fine with the point you're making, but I don't... So when you see them as invaders coming to the country to do harm, what harm are they doing to the country? You're talking about seeking targets and things like that. What is the type of harm you're seeking? Because there's literally hundreds of thousands of these folks that have gotten in the country. Is there a huge issue of them harming the nation?
Historically, if you look at the hijackers that allegedly blew up the World Trade Center, they overstayed visas. These people do cause problems. That's one of the greatest attacks on the history of not just our nation, the history of the world.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You state they came in and overstayed visas, which is true. But remember the point that a lot of folks on the right, including Trump, is saying. I'm not anti-immigrant, just long as you come legally. If they overstayed visas, that means they entered the country legally. They just didn't leave when it was time to leave.
Which is illegal. We completely. That's against the law. You're now an illegal.
But they didn't enter. But they did not enter the country illegally. You will always have the opportunity to come to America and overstay a visa, no matter how many protections you put up, because you got the visa legally. What do you want after the visa is expired to immediately go to find the person?
Yeah, we have local police. I think we can track down every single January 6th protester based off of their internet cell provider photos. We're still tracking people down. You're telling me we can't
Well,
find someone who's illegally in our country using the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, instead of like installing governments in Ukraine or installing governments all over the world to create all these conflicts. I say we use our intelligence community to fight actual domestic threats, such as all these people overstaying our visas.
well, let me counter you by saying this. Hang on, I'll let you continue, but let me counter this by saying I don't believe the FBI captured all of the January 6th protesters through those methods you mentioned. They put their picture on TV like America's Most Wanted, John Walsh, and people snitched on them. They had their own. You could catch every illegal immigrant if the public would snitch on them like that. If you want to put a million people's photos on TV and depend on snitches, that's how a lot of them got caught. It wasn't just through FBI technology.
Literally cell phone data. So the cell phone providers, they gave the geolocation of every single person in DC.
Okay.
Why can't we do that for every illegal immigrant? We know you're an illegal immigrant. Give them your cell phone data.
Because they don't all have cell phones.
What are you talking about? You've heard of the Obama phone?
You think every single illegal immigrant in this country got a cell phone?
Not everyone, but the ones that are overstaying the visas do.
Well, but the ones that are overstaying the visas are not the ones we're talking about. You're talking about the ones that are coming here seeking asylum. They're not overstaying their visas.
For that too, there's called E-Verify. So we have this; it's already in place. Like you would just do like a mandatory E-Verify when like signing up for jobs or like housing or even like larger purchases. Just mandatory E-Verify. The system's already in place. If you're not a citizen, get the fuck out. People come to school. Get you out of here.
All right, so just to wrap it up, you do believe that illegal immigrants that come to this country illegally should face, as you said, potentially getting shot. What about Trump suggesting that he would have the largest deportation in history? How do you do that? Do you just have G-men going around, going in churches and shelters and yanking them out?
Well, you would have to, you would create some sort of like holding area for these people because they have to go somewhere.
Yeah, but they're going to be hiding all over the country. How do you get them in custody?
Yeah, so you just you make it okay for Border Patrol and ICE to do their job. You put the books back or the rules back on the books that allow them to do their jobs. And not only that, you would go then and you would deputize sheriffs, young men who are, vitalized to go do this. And you go and you deputize people and you say, you go find them, you go $100 a head and get them out of here.
That sounds like a posse, Grimace. That sounds like, during the slave trade, if I ran up north, they sent a posse of white men deputizing to come get my ass. You don't see the similarities?
Well, a posse would just be like, me, my uncle Timo, and like all these crazy. But like deputize would be like, I'm giving a badge from the government.
Okay. I could give you and your cousin. I could give you and your cousin a badge. What's the difference? You just got a piece of metal on your chest.
You're not the president.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. You said a posse would just be like me and such, and you said deputizing would be like I got a badge. Well, how about the president just give you and such a badge? It's the same thing.
Hey, I'm a young man. I think I could go. I'd do a great job catching these illegal immigrants. And
All right.
Bring them back.
Okay.
I love this country more than a lot of people.
All right, and you do see them as invaders coming to harm the United States.
I mean, I'm not saying every single one is an invader.
What percentage? Give me a percentage.
Oh, well, if I had to give you a percentage, all of them. But,
You answered it.
yeah, I mean, it's like saying, like, what percentage of, like, criminals are, like, actually violent offenders? Like, off the top of my head, there's no way to know because we're not compiling data on these people. There's no sort of records. It's just an unfettered access of third worlders into our country. So to sit here and be like, give me a percentage of how many of them are actually...
Well, yeah, I get your point. We're just estimating, but like, for instance, if you asked the question, well, what percentage of criminals are violent? I would point out most folks in jail are there for drugs. So those are not violent crimes. I get your point, though, but I do got to move it on. I just wanted to get clarity. So
yeah, no, but I do believe the criminality of these people is highly disproportional due to, like, if you were to compare it to our population. You compare it to the average American and you compare the average third world asylum seeker migrant, you're going to get a lot more crime, a lot more problems, a lot more welfare disparity, and just...
Well, but it's a difference between crime Crime is dangerous to society. Welfare and crime they should not be in the same category. Somebody asking for help financially shouldn't be in the same category as somebody coming to kill people.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but they say, like, a lot of the liberal think tank is, well, what causes crime? Poverty causes crime. What causes, people to go out and riot? Well, that's poverty. They need bread or whatever. And, I mean, that's constantly been parroted from the left wing. Constantly. I see your chat is throwing a fit. Data doesn't say the illegals are criminals. Absolutely. If you look at how much they rape, their violent crime offense, it is absolutely disproportionate to the hosts' nation.
I gotta move it on, but I will side with that commentator. I think that they come here and they're looking to lay low, particularly if you're an illegal immigrant. You're looking to lay low, work under the table. You're not looking to constantly get caught up in the judicial system by creating crimes. I disagree with you that they disproportionately commit crimes. I think the numbers
per capita, you're wrong. It's just it's a fact. It's just a fact that these people from disproportional areas, they commit more crime. I mean,
all right,
they don't commit more crime than Americans because there's more Americans, but per capita.
I get your point. Yeah. All right, Grievous. I don't know if I agree with that, but as always, you're always welcome to the program. You definitely have a passionate viewpoint. We'll see how it goes. You answered every question. Come on back anytime. All right. All right, moving the program on. Someone on, and I'll go back to the box shortly, but I wanted to point out a comment that came in on YouTube. Lady Driver said visa holders should get wrist ankle bracelets with GPS. Any and all citizens should be convinced to report who they think that are illegal immigrants, and then it's investigated. That's a mouthful. I can somewhat see some of that as opposed to others. For instance, I'm not a fan of deputizing the public in regards to going after illegal immigrants, which in regards to what Lady Driver was talking about, convincing the public to report folks that they think are suspicious. Because there are some folks who don't like these people. If you believe they are sitting there worse, they're rapists and they're murderers, they're never gonna pass the smell test with you. So you could end up having a police department getting bogged down with calls from people who don't like those folks. So I'm not a fan of involving the public to that level. Like my last caller talked about, deputizing citizens. However, I don't know if the tracking device idea is that bad. If you're in the country and you're seeking asylum, I'm not necessarily against allowing the government to know where you're at. I'm not against that. The ankle bracelet, I don't know if that's the way to do it or whatever the case may be, but I don't think there would be any immigrant coming to this country from either a third world situation or one where their life was in danger that would have a problem wearing an ankle bracelet. That's a small price to pay for being granted asylum in a much better country from where you came from. I don't see an issue with that. Just like you don't have a lot of folks that are incarcerated that have a problem wearing an ankle bracelet when they are faced with additional time in prison. They'd rather wear a damn bracelet than stay incarcerated. So I don't have a problem with a tracking method on someone that has come to the country seeking asylum. If we're going to let you roam around the country, I don't have a problem. But at the same time, you're going to have a lot of folks on the right saying, well, who's going to pay for all of this monitoring? Who's going to pay for the bracelets? That's going to come up. But the idea of getting the public involved, there's just too many members of the public that have a prejudged notion. As my last caller said, they're invaders. They're coming to harm the country. You want that person living next door to a bunch of immigrants where you already think they're here invading the country? That could go really, really wrong. Going back to the box, I appreciate you folks tapping the screen. TikTok has opened up the door, apparently. Got about 400 of you in here, so I do appreciate that. You could be anywhere. I'm always glad to have you here. Understand, we run an open program. We don't censor, ban, or block anyone. So the comments can be left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with QAnon. We let folks speak. We're not here to tell you how you should think. We're here to hear what you have to say. So I'm going to go straight back to the box. I seen Stick the Ruler on hold there. I seen Fuzz as well, but Stick the Ruler. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much at all. We talking about the border in particular. Do you think Trump would be better in getting this under control than what we have now?
No, we have the same policies under Trump that we the same policies that we have under Biden. So no.
Are you sure? Trump was gung ho on the wall. Biden was not talking about that. Trump was gung ho on punishing Mexico. Biden wasn't talking. Are you sure they're the same policies?
Just because he was gun ho doesn't mean he did it. Just because he talked tough doesn't mean he did. I mean, we talking about somebody heard a balloon pop and he looking around like somebody took a pew pew at him.
But wait, I gotta push back in defense of Trump and say you're right. Just because he talked about it doesn't mean he did it, but he wanted to do it. To some degree, the liberal side of the aisle shot him down, particularly like his Muslim ban. Trump wanted to ban all Muslims coming into the country. The Supreme Court stopped that. He was going to do that.
Okay, again. Just because he wants to do something doesn't mean he's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, at the time Trump was in, he had all what he needed in the sense of votes, Senate, Congress, whatever you want to call it. He had it all at his beckoning wing. That's why he kept saying winning, winning, winning. But then at the end of the day, a lot of his stuff that he wanted, it did not pass, not just through Congress, but as a law, it had no bearing. You know.
So, but what about what he is actually promising? You're saying he can't get any of this done. For instance, if he wants to greatly reduce the number of folks that can claim asylum or remove the asylum program altogether, you don't think he'd be able to do that?
I'll just say this: if any of those seats get taken by Democrats, no, he won't. In the House.
But what does that? But wait. Then what does that say? Because you got to keep in mind the overwhelming majority of these migrants are coming through they're using asylum. So if Trump wants to limit asylum, but the Democrats prevent it, what does that say about the Democrats in regards to getting the border under control?
What it says about the Democrats is just because the Europeans made it over here and got through, that means that anybody else, especially the south of the border, they're going to have the same privileges. So at the end of the day, you can't give privy to one, demographic over the other, because we're all humans. We're all from this planet. Nobody's an alien. You know, Mexico used to go all the way up through California, New Mexico, Arizona, and including Texas, right?
Right.
So, like, no, I ain't even. I'm not on that. You know, it's kind of like what Trump did. He got his parents or his in-laws in the country, and then as soon as he got his in-laws and his wife in the country legally, that's what they say. It was legally.
Yeah.
He dismissed the you can't get grandfathered in anymore.
So
I was on the live yesterday.
So hearing
I married a Nicaraguan man. Okay, go ahead.
No, what about Nicaragua? You said.
Oh, okay. A woman said, she was a MAGA supporter, or MAGA, and she said, "Oh, I married a Nicaraguan man. I can't be prejudiced." And we're like, "Okay, cool. Maybe you're not. You know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're not taking him as a token. But how do you feel about Trump trying to deport him as soon as he gets in office?" So now she's she don't have nothing to say.
That would be a problem.
Where did he say that? Exactly. So now it's where did he say that? When did he say that? Show me your information. When we showed her all of it, and she still, is going to vote against her best interest, and her best interest would be to have her husband here in the United States with her if it's love.
You know what's interesting? You bring that up because that is a repeat of 2016 when Trump got elected and he started imposing stronger immigration bans and blocks. There were a lot of folks on TV. I voted for Trump and now my husband got sent back. There were folks that happened already. There were folks that went in. Go ahead.
No, I was just just gonna say, see,
Yeah.
and there it is. You know what I'm saying? Evidence without me having to actually go and prove. You already know about it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the point that most of the left, not all, just like most of the right, not all. You know, most of the left is trying to give those people who are maybe wishy-washy with who they want to vote for, or don't understand the decisions that they're making. So this is my thing. You have the right to vote in this country.
Right.
You have the right to vote for what fits your demographic or whatever you want to call it. And I get it and I understand. But when you vote, also remember, it's just not you living here in this country. It's just not you.
What do you mean?
A bunch of other people that I'm trying to give a regular without having to yell, because I love it being in your live. It's just me and you. We're talking. You're not choosing sides. You're kind of giving everybody a right to speak.
Yeah.
So,
But I will say this, and I'll let you continue, but I will say this, and I definitely appreciate the accolades, but I will say this. It sounds like you don't see a problem at the border. I asked you, what should be done, and you're pretty much pointing out a lot of white people or a lot of folks from Europe got in the country, so you can't play, favoritism when it comes to folks at the southern border. But when it comes to when you look at the fact, there's a lot more people coming into the southern border in a short period of time. But if we go with what you're saying, it sounds like you're saying we don't really have a problem at the border at all.
it's not so much we don't have the problem at the border. The problem is this problem has been in every administration. It's not a Democratic thing. It's not a Republican thing. If anything, it's a border thing, And what we tend to see from the right is only time they're worried about the border is election time. When Obama was finna get elected, it was the border. When Trump was finna get elected, it was the border, because we were coming out of Obama, right? So they wanted to make Obama look weak on border. So it comes up like that.
I gotta push back. I gotta push back. I'll just say this. I would agree with you if you're talking about Reagan or Bush, but in defense of Trump never stopped talking about the border. It wasn't just at election time. Throughout his presidency, Trump was constantly saying what's going on at the border is wrong and we need stronger laws. He didn't just wait for election time.
But question though, this is the thing, you saying that, my bad about the dog. Mm-hmm. You're saying that, right? But how did he get elected? He got elected on, I'm gonna build a wall.
Yeah.
He got elected on, I'm gonna make Mexico build the wall. But mind you, again, because I'm not giving anybody any type of leeway. Obama was the deporter in chief, correct?
Yeah, that's what they said.
But they still say it's a problem at the border.
That is true.
So it didn't matter if Obama was in office. It didn't matter if Trump was in office. It didn't matter if Joe Biden is in office. There's always a problem at the border. But what I'm saying is the Republicans hype it up basically during the time of election. And they try to make the Democrats look bad by saying, oh, you'll let anybody in. But the problem is this, we don't know who's who. We don't know who's bad, who's good, or whatever.
Do you see them as invaders? Before I move, I gotta move it on soon, but do you see folks coming, like my last caller said, they're here invading the country?
No, and that last caller, that's the guy I called the James Bond racist. He sounds real smooth, but he's racist with his comments. You know what I'm saying? He says he says it so smooth. It's kind of like it's not rough and around the edges like Trump. Like maybe if Trump spoke like him, he could trick more people. But yeah, Trump is rough around the edges.
James, all right, I gotta move it on, but the James Bond racist. Wow. All right, I appreciate it, Stick.
He sounds like he wanted a martini on the rocks.
Oh my God. That's a new one.
I'll check.
All right, Stick.
Tim, you gotta watch out for them, man. They smooth talking, man. They smooth talking. But all right, man. I appreciate you letting me.
Absolute. Wow, the James Bond races. You know, like you got somebody that rob banks and they be like the T-shirt killer or the orange mask rob. The James Bond races. That's different. That is different. That's very creative. Looking in the comments, Alan Coleman. Doesn't matter if you are Republican or Democrat. There is a border problem. Fair enough, but is there the same amount of effort to get it under control? I agree. There were caravans coming during Trump's term. Trump was suggesting there were Middle Eastern men in the caravans, and I remember seeing Geraldo Rivera on Fox News, who went down into Mexico and actually embedded himself in the caravan, and he was on Fox News going against Trump. Like, there's no Middle Eastern men in here. But yeah, there were caravans coming during Trump's term. But I gotta push back a little bit on my last call, and I'll go right back to the box as well. In regards to the notion that the right only brings up the border during election time, I think that applies to everybody but Trump. I do believe Trump, throughout his entire term, was screaming about the border and trying to do things about the border that many folks, particularly us on the left, thought were draconian, thought were punitive, thought were maybe even racist. You can say how you felt about what he was trying to do. Maybe you disagree with it, but he was absolutely doing things his entire term in regards to the border. At least I believe that. Now, looking into, now, and the reason I brought that up is because a lot of folks, like my last caller points out, they bring up shit during election time. They get elected. They use that particular issue to get elected. Then once they're in, they don't do anything else about it. He didn't stop. You may not like what he was trying to do. You may think it was wrong, but he didn't stop once he got elected. He was still going after the border. Now, suggesting that the election was rigged is a perfect example of where Trump said something, because he claimed the election was rigged in 2015. He got elected and he did nothing about the election until he lost in 2020 and started saying it was rigged again. But during his time in office, he wasn't doing anything to try to secure the election. Wasn't even talking about it at rallies or anything. Looking in the comments, I'll go right back to the box. Our country already got to my uneducated. Wait a minute. Our country already got, I'm assuming you mean too many uneducated. Sorry, import some Chinese people, says Tucker Rice. I don't know where to go with that, because you're suggesting that folks coming across the southern border are uneducated, because you said we got too many uneducated people, so bring in some Asians. There's a huge problem with that. Asia is not an ally, particularly China. Now, the Japanese are our allies. The Chinese are not. We're having all kinds of problems with the Chinese. Now you're talking about importing them in? Just want to bring that up, because folks are suggesting that immigrants are invaders. You want to bring Chinese into the country. Going to the box, Fuzzer ×3. Good afternoon. Welcome. Well, apparently Fuzzer was in there and he dropped out. We'll keep it moving. I don't know what happened to my last caller. Something's going on with here. Okay, there we go. We'll go to Sharon. Appreciate you holding on.
Thank you so much for bringing me up.
Okay, there you go. So what do you think? You
Sharon.
say that again?
Okay, this
Wait a minute. I brought.
I was gonna drop and let her.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All right, you go. Yeah, go ahead and drop, and I'll bring her in then.
bring her in. I'll re-request.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. What happened is, I don't know, the app is slower. So I brought one person in and it didn't take them. And then I brought the second person in and then it brought up the first person too. So I don't generally like to have more. Okay, Sharon, there you go. I don't generally like to have more than one person because I like to focus on the conversation. So we do.
That's a smart man right there. That's smart.
Appreciate that. We don't like to have people screaming all over each other. I really want to give you a chance to get your point across. Thank
So
you.
the gentleman that was just on was talking about me. I'm the one who married the gentleman from Nicaragua.
Oh wait, okay. So let me set it up. So you are a Trump supporter who married someone from Nicaragua that he
I've been
was.
a Trump supporter for. Well, someone said, well, I've been waiting for him to run for president for a long time, about 20 years, and I'm not a cult follower. Okay, I believe in Jesus.
Wait a minute, hold on, hang on. You wanted Trump to run for president for 20 years ago. He was identifying as a Democrat. You thought he was a good presidential candidate?
I thought he would make this. Let me finish. I thought he would make a good president and a good leader. Okay, I don't care if he was dim. At one time, I was a Democrat. Okay, I really probably wasn't even paying attention back then. I was a little bit younger. I'm 59, but I always felt like he would make an outstanding president, a very good leader.
Why?
I still think that.
Why?
Let me talk about this immigration thing. I have a lot of arguments about to my brother. There's no way you're going to round up. Let's just take a number: 4.1 million people. I don't know how the hell you're going to do that. That's going to be just about impossible. And what, send them all back? I mean, like, that's impossible. We're going to put them on the train? I mean, you know, that would be a little bit... Okay, this is what the Constitution says about foreigners. It doesn't specifically say anything about immigrants. They're not allowed to come across the border. But once they are here, we're supposed to treat them without any kind of discrimination. That's what it says.
Do you think Trump is doing that?
What I think is happening is that we have never gotten to grab a hold of this situation, and actually,
thank you.
Over the years, okay, we all know. Like I told my husband, I said, "Sweetheart, had you been under Trump, you wouldn't be here, most likely. But once he saw the avenue, you know, to get the free pass, we'll say a free pass, but it's really not a free pass." Because I told him, I said, you know, in a lot of ways, they're hurting you because they're not providing you a social security number and a driver's license. This is not a good thing, okay?
So let me interrupt and ask you. First question I want to ask you, because Trump, and thank you for that. The 2024, I appreciate it. Happy New Year's to you as well. Thank you very much. Do you see?
Are you a Trump follower, sir? Can I ask you?
I tend to lean left, but I actually favor.
Because I see a hat in the background, and I'm thinking, I got one too. It stays in my car all the time. I have two flags.
Well, I'll tell you the story behind the hat. Even though I tend to lean left, the story behind the hat is I believe that Republicans, conservatives, and particularly MAGA get censored anytime they open their mouth. Media, things like that. I want to make folks know in my tiny ass corner of social media, I don't censor. You're free to speak here. This is a MAGA friendly area. So that's the purpose of the hat. So Trump refers to immigrants coming in this country illegally as invaders. Do you agree with that?
Well, what I agree with is, you know, I've looked at the Constitution like 100 times, especially in the last, since I met Desler, my new husband. And it does talk about invasion. Now, invasion, what means what? Like, you know, I thought, well, does that mean like, you know, explosives and all that kind of thing?
Do you see them as, well, let me rephrase it then. Do you see them as harmful to the country?
I think the majority of them are not. I think that you're going to have criminals in every culture, and ankle bracelets are used for criminals that are potentially on what do you call it? Help me.
They're on parole or probation.
Probation. Now, maybe it might be a good idea to put it on a phone where it's a little bit more. Remember, I said discrimination.
Okay.
You're allowed to have. They are. So you can't. You got to be careful about discriminating there. You know, when Abbott put the barbed wire up, I thought, dude, I live in Texas. I thought, my gosh, you know, they're supposed to be treated humanely.
Wait a minute. You support Trump and you're saying, you sound like a liberal.
I'm in the middle, but no, I'm sorry, but I do believe in all of his policies. I'm sorry, I do.
What about the claim?
I'll tell you what I don't believe in. Hold on. I don't believe in all these pronouns. I don't believe in transgenders in women's sports. I don't believe it. I believe in taking care of our veterans.
How do you feel about abortion?
I used to think abortion was okay. Remember, I'm 59. They didn't talk about it a lot when I was coming up, but when I had children, I changed my mind. I don't want my daughters to have to go through an abortion unless it's a medical situation. That is a situation where a woman will have to live with that for the rest of her freaking life.
Well, if she has the kid, she's going to live with it too, right?
No, it's different, sir. I'm telling you.
How?
I'm female.
How is it different if you force her to?
Listen. Okay. I know it's your body. Blah blah blah. I know it's my body. I'm a woman.
Blah blah blah.
Listen to me. I'm just telling you what I think. You like it or not, and you can laugh in the background. I don't care. I'm not going to patty cake, pudding cake, any more of this bullshit. There's been way too many abortions. Try about, and this is my opinion, about 30 million. I mean, in like maybe, this is my opinion, TikTok, in 2023. Do you not think that's enough damn abortions?
Whoa. You said there's been 30 million abortions this year?
Well, take a look at the numbers. Go look it up. I said that's my opinion.
That's a bad opinion. There's about let me respond. Listen, I'm not gonna. I don't have an issue with. Hang on. We gotta have a conversation. I'm not here to prevent you from speaking. We can have a disagreement, but I'm a damn sure let you speak. So understand, I'm not trying to stop you from speaking. But I'll just tell you, we have between 500,000 to 750,000 abortions in America each year. That's the numbers. 30 million in 1 year would be
Well, maybe 30, I don't know if it was 2023. 30 million even in 5 years is a lot.
Yeah, that's way over the actual. But listen, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. What about the notion? Because you stated that you don't see them as coming to harm the country. The guy you support, talking about President Trump, they're not sending us their best and brightest. They're sending us rapists and murderers. Do you agree with that?
Okay, look. You guys, a lot of times, when I say a lot of people seem to take what he says, his messages out of context. I get so tired of this, okay? Look, we're going to need some people that are not willing to do the blue-collar work. We need good, sound people that want to do these kinds of jobs, okay? We just do. That's construction, building dams, working on dams. My dad was a welder for TVA in Tennessee. We need good damn welders, okay? Do you see anybody that you know right now that's 18 that's jumping out their ass to be a welder? Probably not. Okay. So we need to get back to our basic skills. We need skills. We need good doctors. We need good pharmacists. We need good welders, electricians, construction workers, plumbers. Like my husband right now is considered really a master plumber, building a damn school. He's building a damn school, probably for who knows what school system it is, up in Liberty Hill.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question though.
It doesn't matter. The plumbing is perfect.
I'm
sorry.
Hold on.
I thought I answered your question.
Let me repeat it so you can maybe you did answer it and I didn't hear it. Let me get an answer from you again. He said they're not sending us their best and brightest. They're sending us rapists and murderers. What does that mean to you?
Well, there probably are some of them rapists and murderers. Okay, that's been kind of proven because we've had some people come over here that did some very bad things. That's just any culture, though. That lines up with everybody in the whole globe.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to find out how you interpret it. Fair enough. I do got to move it on, Sharon. This is our first time talking, isn't it?
And listen, that gentleman did not tell the truth about me. So that's why I wanted to come on and set him straight.
Okay.
This will not be an easy process for Desert and I. It's going to cost about $8,500. That's something that I'm willing to deal with. I know the situation. I know the risk. He's got about a 90% chance of making it here to be a U.S. citizen. And let me tell you something else. He has to be a perfect citizen. No trouble at all. None.
All right.
Okay, otherwise he goes back.
That is true. Appreciate you coming on. You're welcome back anytime, Sharon.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And I will tell you from personal experience, I did migrate to a different country as well. I lived in Australia for a number of years, and I paid probably about a third of what she's talking about. But it was it was over a decade ago. So I do know it cost a lot. And yeah, you feel that desire to be a perfect citizen because they can deport you for any damn thing. So I'm not disagreeing with her there, but I don't know. It's odd to have someone have a mate from coming across the southern border from a Hispanic country and support Trump simultaneously when one of his strongest policies is promoting is being really strict on people at the border. Now, her husband sounds like he's he's trying to have a successful career as a welder, construction, things like that. But I don't think Trump sees her husband in the same light that he is. But maybe me and her disagree with each on that. Looking in the comments, and I see Sharon says it's called love. My last caller, yes, it is. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 30,000 likes. We try to provide decent content, understand? Like with my last caller, we're not trying to block, ban, or censor you or tell you what to say. We're here to hear what you have to say. Looking in the comments. We'll continue with Fuzzard. I was holding on right up before we brought on Sharon. So, Fuzzard, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Handling the border. Who's better at the border, in your opinion, between Trump and Biden?
Who's better at the border?
Who would be a more suitable candidate to get the mess at the border under control between those two gentlemen?
That's a lot to unpack. Biden is doing. He is managing it very well.
Wow, really? Based on what? Give me your examples. Why?
So you got. First of all, I want to comment on your shirt. I love your. Good looking shirt, my friend.
Thank you. Received it it's a Christmas gift. Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
figured it was. It looks new and pressed and all that. It looks good. But anyways, so you got to understand that COVID was in place during Donald Trump's time. So they knew, the southern border knew that people weren't going to be allowed to come through. So Trump had an automatic border.
Wait a minute, Fuzzer, hold on. COVID didn't kick in until very late in 2019. Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017. He had 2.5 years in office before COVID became a problem.
So this is where I'm going to back up a little bit.
Okay.
So during that time, Donald Trump had the threat, which was, we are going to separate your families.
Yes.
When you come across, we are going to separate you.
You support that?
And that was a fear, a true fear. That's not humanitarian whatsoever. And we are still trying to reunite those families together.
Okay.
That is a problem. Now, people are going to say, oh, Obama started the cages. Yes, very true. 2014, Obama did start those cages. But he did not separate the families. So he did, that wasn't the most humane thing either. But now you fast forward to is it Article 42, or I can't remember the exact, but 42. And
what is Article 42?
No, 42, which said which basically was protecting the border. Trump's protection said you cannot come here due to COVID-19.
Okay.
Now that expired. Biden allowed it to expire, but he installed Article 8, which said, hey, you had to stop in Guatemala. If you're not from Mexico, you had to stop at the Guatemalan border. And you have to prove that your asylum is needed in the United States, and that Mexico is not a better situation than where you left. That was turned down by the courts. So Biden said, hey, no, if you're not coming from Mexico, you need to stop at that border first and show Mexico is not asylum. That was turned down by the courts. So they're allowed to come through all the way up and these are not our rules, but the court said this, but these are not our rules. These are world rules.
Well, the world, but the world, you see, the world isn't telling Israel what to do. The world can't tell you what to do. It's up to you to listen to that. But you do believe Biden is handling the border. He's doing a good job at the border, in your opinion.
The border's a mess, and it always has been. I mean, we're roughly the same age. We know what it was like during Reagan's time. Yeah. Reagan embraced the border. He embraced it.
So in other words, if we get Trump back, you don't see anything getting better border-wise at all, really?
No, it's going to be one of the callers, I think it was Grievous, but basically, let's go round him up. Trump might go to internment camps. That's kind of what it sounds like could
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, I believe that. I
And
believe
if
that.
if people don't know what internment camps are, well, this guy here from Germany, yeah,
Yeah,
and that is go round them up with ice.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, I mean, regardless of how folks feel about whether Trump is good at the border or not, there will be some type of holding facilities, like you're talking about internment camps, because a lot of these folks have no ID, so you don't even know for certain what country of origin they are to deport them. They're going to be holding areas for them. That absolutely, certainly, if he is suggesting he's going to have the largest deportation in history, you can't get everybody out of the country that fast. So you're going to have to hold them somewhere. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, and literally that's what it would look like. It would look like internment camps. Now, whether it's hidden or not, who knows? What the deportation looks like. Like, I'm from Venezuela. Prove it. Ship me back to where I belong. You know?
Yeah.
Or I'm just going to sit here. At some point, you know what they do at the pound when you sit there for too long? That dog sits there too long at the pound? That's, who knows?
I don't know about that. I don't think they're going to do that.
This is the man that says, I want to be a dictator for a day. He came out and said that openly. I want to be a dictator for a day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But do you see Trump as supporting like what one of my callers was suggesting, lethal devices at the border, potentially making it okay to shoot immigrants coming into the country illegally and things like that? Could you ever see Trump doing that?
So let's go to Abbott. What does Abbott have that he's trying to put in the rivers?
Those things that make you the drowning machines.
The razor blades, right?
Yeah.
We already have that, and Trump is in support of that.
Yeah.
Why not go the next step? I mean, you literally have razor blades in the rivers for these people trying to, and all they need to do is step a foot on our country. The second they put a foot down, they're doing it legally. It's called asylum.
Well, but you can't just come into the country. You have to go up to somebody and ask to seek asylum. Until you find somebody, you're in the country illegally.
Right, right. I agree. Yes, and so the second you announce asylum seeking, all you need to do is put a foot down, and then you have the process started. Now, that's what brings up. You were talking about the ankle bracelets.
Yeah, and when I said ankle, let me make it clear on the ankle bracelets, because my last caller, although her stance was.
She's messed up.
Yeah, although her stance was baffling, she was sounding liberal, then hardcore right on something. But I don't necessarily say ankle bracelets, but I am in favor of monitoring the location of somebody who is here on an asylum claim. I don't have a problem. I mean, if you can do it without an ankle bracelet, maybe a watch or something like that. But if you're here seeking asylum, I don't have a problem monitoring you.
They have to periodically show up at court to proceed with the process. That is the monitoring. But
what if they don't show up to court?
Well, then that is at that point is when they become illegal.
Yeah, but at that point you don't know where the hell they at.
Well, then we end up with internment camps, I guess.
No, what is so wrong about giving them a watch or something that you can? I mean, what is so wrong about that? Would that really be that much of a hindrance for being able to come into one of the best countries in the world?
So these Obama phones. Well, I mean, first, let's talk about the Obama phones. I'm willing to bet have some kind of tracking device on them. I'm willing to bet with the Obama phones.
I don't. Yeah, but that's not mandatory. All immigrants don't have those. I mean, first of all, those phones came from the Bush era. That's just a derogatory term to attack liberals. Those phones were around before Obama got elected. But a watch, a bracelet, something you could track. I don't see the issue with that.
So the immigration, Tim, is not the problem. It's not the immigration. It's the system. Let's put these people through the system faster. Okay? When people came into Ellis Island, it was a day to a year, and they were citizens.
Yeah, but Fuzzard, they weren't coming in these numbers. You can't put this. We don't have enough personnel to process so many people.
The reason why Ellis Island wasn't these numbers is because they didn't border our southern.
Right. So you can't do that. Logistically, you can't do what you did at Ellis Island. It's too many people.
And you can figure out a way. There's a way to expedite it. You have to be able to. I mean, when you can do that few people in a day, you can do this many people in a year.
But you're okay with the tracking device. Are we at least making some progress there?
No, I'm not okay with the tracking device.
So you do believe that...
Court. When they're supposed to show up in San Antonio in court in 7 days, and you ship them to Martha's Vineyard, which is an island off of Massachusetts.
I'm not a fan of that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, you just ruined their tracking device. You just destroyed their tracking device. They're supposed to be in San Antonio in 10 days.
Yeah. Well, if they were properly tracked and it was being properly managed, I don't think they would have sent them to.
I mean, maybe there's a way to do it, but bracelet or an anklet like they do prisoners, no, they're human beings. They hit here. They deserve constitutional law. Do they get all the benefits of being a U.S. citizen? No, but they are protected by constitutional law at that point.
All right.
And ankle bracelet isn't.
All right, fair enough. You made a decent argument. I don't know if I'm totally against it, but I'm not totally in favor or against it. I don't see, like when I went to Australia, I migrated there and they didn't put any tracking device on me. They needed to know where I lived. They actually had immigration officials come to my home to make sure the story I was giving them matched, but they weren't tracking me. I could have roamed around the country. In fact, I did. So I kind of get your point, but if they wanted to put a...
Show up to my residence once a week, once a month. Show up to my residence and make sure I'm still where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, you're talking Men in Black. You know the movie Men in Black? Where they know where all the Martians are? That's not what we're talking about here.
All right, fair enough. All right, Fuzzard. You make a good point.
You again, buddy.
Absolutely a pleasure. Absolutely a pleasure. You guys for the...
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And as always, we only got 28K on the likes. Some lazy ass thumbs in here. Tap the screen, get your boy likes. So we should be around 50,000. We got almost 700 of you folks still riding with your boy. I do appreciate that. Looking in the comments, who the hell has the manpower to do that? That's the problem. But keep in mind, whether you're on the Biden side of border management or on the Trump side of border management, you got to increase the manpower. There's no way in hell you're going to do what Trump is suggesting without a significant increase in manpower. Largest deportation in history, you're going to need hundreds of more people. As one of my earlier callers was suggesting, he was okay with deputizing citizens. But the fact is, you're going to need more manpower. You can't get this under control with the current amount of manpower. There's just not enough. I mean, they're all over the country now. You got folks in Chicago and New York complaining about being overrun with immigrants thanks to DeSantis and Governor Abbott. So, yeah, you're going to have to increase the manpower, whether you look at this from a right-wing perspective or a left-wing perspective. Looking in the comments real quick, you have plenty of National Guard to help. Yeah, but you got to then activate them. You're increasing the manpower. Those folks got regular jobs all over the damn place. You would have to activate them. And who knows for how long? They have to be activated for significant... I mean, you're talking about rounding up tens of thousands of people at this point. Increasing the manpower. There's no other way to do it. Looking in the comments, the world is worried about population decline. Why should we stop able-bodied fertile adults? Diane, it's going to get dark here. I'm going to go back to the box after answering this comment, but the answer is simple. In America, there are folks who believe the current population of sorts is being replaced with a different type of population. A lot of folks in this country want a specific type of individual, namely Americans, but certain types of Americans I'm stumbling because this shit ain't hard. This ain't but there are Americans that want certain people to do those jobs. They don't want those jobs to go to what you refer to as able-bodied immigrants. It's kind of that whole replacement theory situation. This does tie into the abortion debate as well. And I'm not just coming out of my ass with this stuff. Obviously, I'm talking to many of you folks on both the right and left. I'm talking to hundreds of people, whether in the comments, whether on YouTube. We're running a simulcast on YouTube as well. This is what I'm hearing. Folks are fearful that immigrants are replacing what we have here, and they don't want that. They don't want that. Looking in the comments. Most people, I bet you I was going to go back to the box real quick. Most people come here just because they have family members living, also not seeking asylum. Well, they come for a variety of reasons, and that is part of it. I do agree with that. Going back to the box, Electric Wolf 45. I kind of know, Electric Wolf, friend of the program, certainly MAGA. I kind of know that you likely believe Trump would be better at the border than Biden. But what say you? Wolf, you there?
Well, I mean, you're 100% correct. Right, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
You
okay.
here?
So
You hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. So do you see, as Trump stated, do you see folks coming into the country as an invasion?
Well, I do look. I can see where he's saying it's an invasion due to the fact that they're not coming through regular means, and they're coming in so many. And we have to keep in mind when it was the numbers that during Trump and stuff like that. That was before his inauguration, when he was coming in before he could do anything about it. Because they had told him, you need to get to the border before this guy gets sworn in.
Yeah, but Wolf, but hang on, Wolf. An invasion usually means folks are going to do you harm. You don't get invaded by a bunch of friendly people. Invasion usually means those people are harmful.
Not all of them are friendly. Yeah, I don't believe all of them are. I think it was in El Paso when they crossed over with that big Venezuelan flag. Remember?
Yeah.
And they were stabbing at the guy at one of the border patrol agents. Okay, that to me was an invasion. To me, not everybody, but the people who were doing that, I think should have been taken out in the way you think I'm thinking.
But what about Trump's? But what about Trump's claims they're not sending their best and brightest, they're sending us rapists and murderers? Do you believe that actively?
No, they are.
Say that again?
Oh yeah, I believe. No, I totally believe that. Yeah, Venezuela emptied their jails. They sent the people this way. There's a bunch of people that are facilitating the movement that are American citizens that are what do you call it? Charities or so-called charitable places, and they're facilitating this movement because they're the ones that are taking the money from the government.
So hearing what you're saying, just to make sure I get clarity, you're saying you do believe the majority of them coming in this country mean to do us harm.
I don't believe the majority. I'm going to say probably 30 to 40%.
That's a lot.
To do us harm.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a lot.
Okay.
And like I told you before, 1% out of million I have a problem with.
Okay.
I don't care if it's 100,000 and there's one bad guy. I don't want any of them in because it's not fair. And on top of that, they're clogging in for the people that are doing right. And see, earlier you were saying something about Trump not liking immigrants. Trump doesn't have a problem with immigrants. It's illegal immigration that he has a problem with. That's I
could not disagree with you more. When Trump says I'm calling for a total and complete ban on all Muslims entering the country, he didn't say the word illegal. He was calling for a complete Muslim. So he say he don't have a problem with immigrants. He sure ain't saying the same thing.
Well, yeah, no. And I agree when he said that, when he said about we need to stop all movement from Muslim countries into this until we figure out what the hell's going on. That's what he said.
Right. That ain't friendly to that is not a
You said that? No.
That's not a friendly comment to if any Muslim trying to immigrate to this country that doesn't have a criminal record, that is only coming here to do right. That's not a friendly comment to them. That's suggesting that you might be a threat.
It's not a friendly comment, but it was necessary. It was necessary when we don't.
Okay, unfortunately, Wolf, even though I'd like to finish the conversation, your signal is really bad. I'm going to have to move it on. We got a really bad signal there, Wolf, but you know how it works. You're always invited back. Looking in the comments, send all illegals to blue states, says Pete in the comments. And I want to point something out, because a lot of folks say, well, Democrats are only letting them in because they know they're going to vote for them. That comment kind of assures that will happen. If illegal immigrants come into the country and they're sent to blue states and they're allowed to stay in the country, it does make it look like the blue states are friendly to us. The Republicans kick us out. They want to kill us. They think we're invaders. So when they become legal citizens or have children that are natural born Americans at that point, you don't think that's going to turn into an anti-Republican sentiment? I got folks in here talking about they should be shot. I understand that. So when you suggest, well, the media is telling them that Republicans are bad and Republicans don't like they don't like Hispanics. No, your comments are letting them believe that. You just talked about kicking them out of red states and sending them in blue states. Just want to point that out. Looking in the comments, are we supposed to keep all 12 million illegals in Texas then? No, they should get the border under control. They should get the border under control. That's how it should work. However, if Texas is being overrun by immigrants, they should start dispersing them throughout the country, not picking particular areas. Or what they did to Kamala Harris, to her home, they sent her to Martha Vineyard or whatever. I mentioned this before. And by the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 50,000. We still got 600 plus of you in here. I'll go right back to the box. But when they sent those immigrants to Martha's Vineyard to make a point in regards to Kamala Harris, sent them in front of her house, the bus driver that was hired to do that from Texas and drive up there actually did a news story suggesting he felt awful being hired to do that. He talked about how Texas forbid him from making any stop in Texas. His job was to pick them up and drive them to New York. When he got near New York, he was told to divert to Martha's Vineyard. They had found out Kamala Harris was going to be home or something like that, and they had him divert the bus. Now, according to him feeling sorry that he had to do this, he was involved in this, he couldn't stop to even let them use the bathroom. He talks about how there was literally piss running all down the aisles and things like that because he could not stop the bus, according to what he was told by the state of Texas that hired him. Was not allowed to stop until he got all the way there. The bathrooms were overrun with fecal matter and all of that. No food. He said he used his own money to purchase pizza for the people on the bus. They sent them folks to New York with nothing. Talk about the lack of humanity. And then he stated, because his original goal was New York, when they found out Kamala Harris was home, they told him, no, go to Martha's Vineyard. He couldn't let him off the bus, had to park until Kamala Harris got home. They sat on that bus for 10 hours. That's when he went out and bought him pizza and things like that. No food or anything. To make a point, they diverted that bus to Kamala Harris's house, and he had to park with all of them on the bus. They couldn't get out and wait till she got home to make that point. He went out and bought him pizza to feed them, like I stated, waste all down the aisle of the bus. And when he arrived to the home of the vice president, he stated Fox News crews were already there. And he asked the question, how did Fox News even know what we were doing? Just want to point that out. Governor Abbott made a point, but he certainly put those folks through some very inhumane consequences to do so. That is a complete lack of humanity. And that goes back to my previous callers suggesting putting razor blades and all. I don't give a damn about them. They came here illegally. If I could, I'd murder them. That's what it really sounds like. Going back to the box. And I see somebody in the comments said heartless. Yeah, that definitely qualifies as being heartless. We'll keep it going with Vinny Doc. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Who would be better in regards to the southern border versus, Trump versus Biden? Who do you think would be better at getting that under control?
Well, I tend to agree with the last person that you had on, that Biden actually did make more of a moderate attempt when it comes to immigration and have them come in through legal areas. but he was shot down by the courts. And there's really not. It's the same thing with student loans. When he tried to do something, the Republicans sued, and he didn't get what he tried to get people money so that the economy could get better, and that younger people weren't under this huge weight of debt. And I understand they decided to go to school, they decided on the tuition, they accepted it, but things change, and we give out corporate welfare, so I don't see why we can't give out support to younger people or support immigrants, because like the woman said earlier, most of them are they're going to act legal. They're going to be good citizens. The only problem is we have a Dreamers Act.
But wait a minute. My last caller suggested that as many as 40% of them are coming here to do harm to this country.
I don't see the data. I don't see any data to support it. So, I actually, my job is based on data, and if the data isn't there, then it's just fodder for political parties, So, listen, I do also agree with something that was in the comments before, that both parties have an issue with immigration that helps them get their people elected. And like I said, I brought up the Dreamers Act because, quite honestly, if Congress and the Senate, if the House and the Senate can't pass something for the Dreamers, I don't know how you clean up the border. The Dreamers have been following rules. They've been working jobs. They're going to school. They can't have any kind of a legal issue. So these people have embraced what our country says it does. And we can't even help them get a path to citizenship.
Yeah, but the folks coming here in these caravans that are claiming asylum, they're obviously not part of what you're talking about in regards to the Dreamers. Trump said he wants to do the largest deportation in history. Would it be okay if he excluded the Dreamers and just went after all of these folks that were part of the caravans seeking it? Because that's by now that's kind of the majority of them are the folks that came over in these caravans and asked for asylum. That's most of the folks that are here illegally now.
I mean, my position when you consider like mass deportations, I mean, if you don't want America to be America, do it. But that's not America. I mean, I'm Italian. And quite honestly, they could have stopped us from coming in.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my families are all Trump supporters. A lot of the Italians that I'm friendly, and I'm not all Italians. I don't want to paint with too broad a stroke.
Okay.
But a lot are. And if Trump was president at the time, he would have seen us. I mean, the nicknames were Greaseball, we were Mafia, we were illegal. I mean...
Weren't you guys referred to as WAPs? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm learning. So you do believe that your family supports a man that would not have been good for your family when they first came here?
Absolutely. People brought up Ellis Island before, and I have to say it. Somebody wrote in the comments, "This is the greatest country in the world." I mean, based on data, that's just not the case. I mean, I'd love to say that, and I'd love to go towards that, and I'd love to be that.
Yeah.
And listen, America always strives for that. We do want to be the best. But if you look at all the different lists, our number one killer of children is guns. Now, I'm not against guns. I don't have a problem with guns. I think if somebody wants to own a gun, nothing wrong with that. But we don't follow data in this country. We use guns as a political issue, just like immigration. And nobody wins.
Let me respond. I'll let you continue, but in the comments, because when you said you don't think America is the greatest country based on the metrics, somebody replied, "Then why are you here?" Now, I agree with you. And by the way, if you believe America's a free country, you should be able to criticize it without being told to get out the damn country. So that's why he's here, because he's free to speak his mind. But in my opinion, having lived overseas, I've lived in Australia, been in New Zealand many times. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. America's a great country. I'm not going to take from that. But the notion that we are better than everybody else, I agree with you 100%. That's not true. You can live longer You can oftentimes get better health care. There's a lot of metrics. Depends on the happiness index. There's a lot of things you go by. You talk about children being, losing their lives to gunfire, sometimes while in school. That stuff doesn't happen everywhere. So I do agree. We're one of the better countries, but we're not the best.
And I completely agree. Actually, you said it better than I could. Listen, I love this country and I love the ideals it's always aspiring to get to. But there's an undercurrent, and maybe it is the MAGA, and maybe it's more people than the MAGA. Like, I don't want to just single out one group of people, even if it's just the MAGA group. But the reality is, we're a great country, but and I know a lot of the people in the comments are going to go against this. We're on our way to being a fascist country, and that is not greatness.
Explain why you say that. Why do you see fascism as potentially part of our future?
I guess the people that are getting put in office believe in the idea of make people do what we want, not follow the process of the Constitution.
Yeah, but the libs can bring up, you and I both mentioned kids being killed in schools, and you talk about letting people do what they want versus what's in the Constitution. I mean, the Second Amendment is in the Constitution, and us libs sometimes push back towards that right. I mean, both sides want you to do what they want if they think that's better for the country than what your rights are.
No, listen, I'm a constitutional person. But if you look at when the Constitution was written and there were flint guns that you had to load and it took like a minute to load them, as opposed, listen, I don't have a problem with handguns. I don't have a problem with shotguns. People use those things for home defense. They use it for hunting. There's nothing wrong with that. But just so you know, I also work in a school. And I see those kids practicing shooter drills all the time. And I've worked with some students that were like, is this really going to happen? Can this happen? And I'll even say, if you look at the number of pre-K elementary and high schools in our country, it's a small percentage of schools that get shot up when you look at the numbers. But even one school is too big a percentage.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And the other thing that just gets me nuts on mostly other people's lives, but I don't think we should be using the word abortion. I really think it should always be talked about as women's health care, because there are very few of abortions the way they used to be with a doctor and a back and stuff like that.
I gotta disagree. I gotta push back. I gotta push back on you. When you say don't use the word abortion and start using these other terms, I think to some degree you're trying to mask what actually is happening. I'm 100% pro-choice, I'll tell you that. But fact is, the overwhelming majority of abortions in this country have nothing to do with rape or incest or the woman's health. It's somebody who had unprotected sex, and for some reason, maybe their career, maybe their finances decided they don't want the baby. Maybe they're not dating a boyfriend anymore. But it's not women's health care, so to speak. A lot of it is women just deciding, I don't want a baby at this time.
Well, think about it. How many laws are there about male sexuality?
What do you mean?
About what we can and can't do with our body. How many laws are there on the books about?
Oh, I didn't say it was fair. Like I started out, I made it clear I'm 100% pro-choice. I'm just being honest. I do believe that if you're pregnant and you don't want to have a child right now, nobody should be able to force you to have a child. But I'm not going to pretend like it's because you got raped or listen. I call it what it is. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, listen. Part of me agrees with some of the things you're saying. What I'm saying is, when you frame an issue, and when you throw out the word abortion, the word has become a political word. Yeah. If you talk about women's health care, abortion is under that umbrella. So yes, there are women that have to make a choice when they have unprotected sex, or the woman and the man go to their doctor and talk about different issues. It's going to affect her life more than my life.
It's true.
So why am I dictating what she should do when it's really something she's got to handle and deal with? I want to be supportive. I want to help. I have no problem giving money to Planned Parenthood if that helps women. women have always been. I mean, if you look at the Supreme Court ruling, now they're going after the mifepristone.
Yeah.
And that is really where most of the abortions take place, and they're before any sign of life exists.
Yeah,
So,
the goal is simple. This is part of that whole replacement theory thing. They want more humans. The goal is to have more humans. They're not only going after abortion, they're going to be going after the morning after pill and eventually prophylactics, whether it's, birth control or, condoms, things like that. They want more humans. That's the goal. But right now we'll start with abortion at the state's level, but it will expand if uninterrupted, because the goal is to create more humans. I totally agree with you there. I'm pro-choice. I'm just simply saying that when it comes to abortion, most abortions are just the mom choosing not to have a child at that time.
And I would agree with that. But I also, part of it when certain people frame it as, do you believe in abortions up until birth? It's just not the truth.
No.
And it doesn't follow data. And any woman that's going to carry a baby for
Apparently,
most of the time, I'm not going to say all the time, it's not probably not everybody. But I would think it's a very small number that would go through all of the doctor's appointments, all of the checking on the baby, taking care of the baby, feeding the baby, giving the baby nutrition, and then in the 8th month?
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh shit! I don't want to be a mom anymore.
Yeah, Vinny,
Most doctors wouldn't even touch that with a healthy baby.
Yeah, Vinny, I do got to drop you, because your signal is really bad. It's going in and out. But in regards to what he was saying, I do agree overwhelmingly that the overwhelming majority of abortions have nothing to do with, women wanting to abort in the 8th or 9th month, or as Ron DeSantis suggests, that you can take the baby home and come back to the hospital and terminate it. Just ridiculous shit. That's not what's happening with the overwhelming majority of abortions in this country. Probably over 90% of abortions have nothing to do with 9th month abortions or women going home with a live child and coming back. Just ridiculous. However, there is ridiculousness. I'm thinking about the MTV show. There are ridiculousness coming from the other side as well, the liberal side. And that is talking constantly about rape, incest in the life of the mother. That does happen. But like I stated, when it comes to abortion, most of it is moms deciding right now is not the time for me to have a child. She wasn't raped. This is not a product of incest, and her life is not in danger. It's mostly people just deciding, I'm not ready to have a child right now. Maybe me and the baby's father are no longer on good terms, or I don't know who the hell the father is, or just simple, I got a career to worry about and this is not a good time for me to get pregnant. That's where most of the majority of abortions fall. However, I don't think it makes sense for me, considering I'm not going to have anything to do with that child, to tell that woman, you got pregnant, you got to have this kid. If it's a struggle, who gives a shit? I don't think that's my place to tell her that. I believe that if you are pregnant, you should decide whether you want to become a parent or not. I just don't believe it's my place to get involved with that, because most of us are going to suggest we don't want to pay to take care of that child for 18 years. Then if you're not going to help her with it, then don't get involved in the decision. And I do believe that eventually this will come back to what do you say, the chicken's coming home to roost, whatever term you want to use, because folks are talking about, I don't want to have my tax money go to Planned Parenthood and pay for abortions. But you're going to force the child to come to term, you're going to have to pay for it for 18 damn years. Most of these women are not financially stable, balling and rolling in money. They're going to be asking for help, benefits, food stamps. You could pay a little bit of tax money now, or you could pay a lot in the future if money is your only concern. Get money out of the picture. Either you're for saving the life of the child or you're not. All of this shit about where it's costing me money, you're not saving any money by refusing to pay for abortions. You're actually going to pay a lot more money in the long term. Foster care, the roster for foster care is going to explode. Some might even suggest the prison population will get bigger, because these are a bunch of women that told you from day one they don't want the kid. You think forcing them to carry a baby to term is going to turn them into mother of the year? No. It's going to be all sorts of negative shit happening. That's just the way it is. Looking in the comments, and I seen someone on YouTube I wanted to address. I find that demonizing of parenthood the real problem. Convincing people that a career will fulfill them when living a childless life doesn't work for most people in the end. I don't quite get that, Jolene. I just believe that if a person tells you from the beginning they don't want to be a parent, it's not a good idea to force them to be one. I just don't see that. I mean, all of a sudden now what happens? You start throwing women in jail for trying to have an abortion or not being a good parent. They told you from day one they weren't ready. I don't see how that's going to work, but we'll give it a chance. And once you see what's going on, I'm sure the women will wise up and start voting against policies like that. Going back to the box, we'll keep it moving. Bob Paintner. In regards to who would be better at the border, talking about Joseph Bush, Joe Biden, Joseph R. Biden versus Donald Trump. Now, the box is acting funny, so we'll give it a second to see if it comes on. I see James in the comments says, why are you on my page? I don't know. I don't control what the TikTok gods decide to do, but I appreciate you here. MAGA's going to complain why they have so many kids. That is absolutely a fact. California 213. It's very similar to what happened during the welfare to work laws, where men were having children and not taking care of their kids, and the kids would fall on welfare, so they passed these welfare to work laws and things like that and started going after men for child support. Became very aggressive in making sure men took care of their responsibilities. That's what's going to happen to women. If you can't have an abortion, but you keep continuing to have children you can't afford, the same folks that are banning abortion do not believe in taking care of children had by parents that can't afford them. So women are going to face punitive consequences. There's no doubt that's going to happen. Hopefully it doesn't go as far as something ridiculous like sterilizing them, but they will face consequences. You got 2 or 3 children in foster care that you had and you knew you couldn't afford it. We want to recoup some of the money from you. You're forcing a huge burden on the taxpayers having all these children you can't afford. They're going to go after women from that standpoint. I don't think there's anything good coming down the pipe for women. I don't think there's anything good at all coming down the pipe for women. Right, the Republicans with 3 Ks demonize parents on welfare with multiple children a lot. Yo, the point they want to stop the welfare programs. Yeah, it makes no sense to be trying to limit access to welfare while passing laws that are undoubtedly going to create more kids. Those two things are going to come to a head, and the end result will be a disaster. Going back to the box, Scammy, I think this says T-shirt. I don't know what's going on with the box, but we'll keep the program moving if it allows me to. Scammy, can you hear me? Are you there? Okay, I don't know what's going on, but apparently the box is acting crazy here because I hear someone. I don't see it on the issue, so I may have to stop the live. Looking in the comments, Max Fims at things, and the majority of government assistance users are their voter base. Wow. And you're saying that they're trying to limit welfare, and the majority of folks receiving welfare you believe are Republicans. That's interesting because a lot of folks suggest that it is the liberals that are receiving all of the free stuff. I haven't seen. That's interesting that you would say that. We'll try it again. I don't know. For the Stitch, we'll try it. I don't know. The box is acting funny. That's statistically accurate, says Sabrina. Yeah. Castillo, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, sir. It's such an honor to be with you.
Oh, shit. Thank you. Let me ask you something. With your last name, I'm just curious. Is that Hispanic heritage?
I am Salvadorian. I'm Hispanic, yes.
Okay. How do you feel about what's going on at the border? Do you see a major problem?
Definitely. So a lot of things that are not be talked about about the border is child abduction. I was part of a child abduction. I was brought here without the consent of my father.
Oh.
So that's happening a lot in the southern border, where a lot of parents are bringing children here
without the other's parents' consent.
Why? What is the purpose of doing that?
Malicious sometimes. There may be many reasons.
Give me some examples of why somebody would bring somebody else's child into the United States.
For the same reason, you have mothers that are, that have feuds with their significant others.
Okay.
Just like my dad and my mom, they split up at a very young age.
So your mom essentially kidnapped you from your dad.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, that's what happened. Legally, that's what happened. She pretty much took you. Keep going.
It's a hard decision to make, but legally it is because my father never gave her consent for me to be brought here, and yeah.
Not to get too personal into your particular experience, but did your dad fight at all, or try to get in contact with the consulate here and tell him what happened, or did he even know where you were?
So yeah, exactly. So my dad was back home. So he didn't know the system. He didn't know who to seek help from.
Wow.
Until family members reached out to him and told him, like, hey, he's here. We heard, word that he's here. So,
wow.
So
how old were you when that happened?
I was 7 years old.
So you actually had a relationship with your dad, and your mom basically took him out of the pit. How did you resent your mom? I hate to go personal on your story, but this is really fascinating.
No, that's fine. It's handsome. That's fine, because people need to hear this, so understand the reason why it's so important that we have a controlled border. I do resent my mother for doing this because my dad's and I relation was very close. I was miserable here. I didn't know my mother for 7 years. I didn't know who I was living with. It was a whole different person that I was living with.
So based on what you're saying in regards to getting the border and things under control, do you think Trump would be a better leader to do that?
I think you would put.
Oh, I want to hear him. I don't know if he got a call. I'll give him a second. Because he's obviously fairly, well tied into the issue. I would like to hear what he has to say. So we'll give him a minute. I don't know if he had a phone call come in or what, but I really wanted to hear that. Looking in the comments, wow, I never thought of it that way. But listen, when you give one parent custody, a lot of women do abuse that issue. I mean, we generally assume the woman would be a better parent for the child during relationship breakups and divorces. But a lot of women do use that as a weapon or misuse it and completely erase the father from the child's life. And unfortunately, my caller dropped. I really wanted to hear from him. I see the comments. Merv said, ask him why he hasn't gone back to meet his father now that he's older. That would have been a great question. That's not to say maybe he has not. Maybe he has. I wanted to ask him a lot, but I do apologize. He dropped out. Looking in the comments, wow. So it sounded like he was favoring Trump. It really does sound like he was favoring Trump. Looking in the comments, MAGA hates everyone that is not their color. Yikes. So is it safe to assume, California 213 in the comments, representing the 213, is it safe to assume you believe MAGA is loaded with racists? Because you're stating that they hate everyone that is not their color. Wow. Big Bird 211 says, father of 5, I got all my kids. God bless you. God bless you, because at least in America, the only way you're going to have all 5 of your children is if the mom is either incarcerated, mentally unfit, or deceased. If all things are equal, all the same income, she's not even the same income, just gainfully employed, you're going to lose. You're not going to get all 5 of your. You usually have to place that mom at a disadvantage for you to walk away with custody. But if all things are equal, the guy usually doesn't win. The guy usually loses. So if you got 5 children and they're all with you, yeah, that mom must be really jacked up. And I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just simply saying our system, when it comes to custody, overwhelmingly favors the mom. I love you, handsome. Becky Beck, damn, you sound better than my ex-wife. Shout out to you. Appreciate that. Handsome, I was kicked out. Fila, really? Are you saying that the app took you out for that? You got kicked out for the guy from Venezuela, what country? I can't remember. El Salvador. You got kicked off for that? He didn't say anything. Appeal that. Stitch. Good afternoon.
What's happening, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. We're asking a question that should be simple for some, maybe complex for others. In regards to getting the mess at the border straight, who do you think would be a better commander-in-chief between Trump and Biden?
Ooh, so it depends on what you want the end result to be. And this is what I mean by that. Whenever we talk about immigration, and let's just say that you cut the border off, all right, well, you want the end result to be national security concerns? Because the great terrorist threats that we ever had did not come from people on the border. As a matter of fact, history tells us that if you look at even immigration way back when, let's just say with the mafia, Al Capone and others, I mean, those people are even glorified now.
Yeah, but you're looking at it from an aspect of terrorism, like Middle Eastern type conflict.
That's one point.
Yeah,
if
but
people are thinking that the border is a national security concern, which, don't get me wrong, I do think immigration is a big crisis right now. But what exactly you want the end result to be?
But when you say national security concern, as opposed to Al Qaeda or ISIS, what about MS-13? I mean, if you could still be a national security concern if you're coming over as a gangbanger and you're, terrorizing neighborhoods.
No doubt about that. But I guess the way how I look at it is, I use SPC. And what I mean by that is statistical process control. I'm looking at my big hitters. Who has caused us the most harm over the years? And you got to out the noise. Yeah, true. Yeah, you've had MS-13. You've had gangbangers who have caused problems. But if you're looking at it from a national security concern, then which has caused us the greatest amount of concern in data? It hasn't been from people on the border.
Wait. You said it hasn't come from people on the border. So who do you think it's come from?
Let's look at our major terrorist activities that we have had over the years. Are we going to say that the number one terrorist that we had has come from people on the border? No, it hasn't.
Oh my God, you're forcing me to go right of you on this, but I got to tell you, when it comes to mentioning terrorism, and you think about Al Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban, Ba'ath Party, I do believe what's come across the southern border like I said, there's a lot of gangbangers and things. It's just, when you talk about the sheer number of people coming across the border, ISIS and Al Qaeda can't compare to that. Also, if you take away the fact that America went to the Middle East, we really wouldn't have much of a terrorist problem. Most of the acts of terrorism we faced is us being in their area. Not many of them, with the exception of bin Laden, and the exception of what happened at the World Trade Center back in '93, we haven't had a lot of terroristic issues on our own soil that would remotely compare to the number of people who've come across the border and turned into felons for, killing an average American. We actually have had more bad people coming through the southern border because it's been just millions of people.
I mean, the way I look at it is lives lost at the end of the day. And I'm not just including ISIS and that sort of thing. I'm looking at throughout history. And, again, we can take this all the way back. Just like I said before, we've had people that have come across as immigrants, not necessarily across the border, but as immigrants,
right,
that have caused harm to as well. And that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at lives lost at the end of the day. No doubt the problem at the border is indeed a crisis. I'm just saying that if you ask the question, who would do better as commander-in-chief? Well, what results are you trying to obtain at the end of the day? Because
what about just getting it under control so many folks are not entering the country at once?
So I think here's the other thing too. Getting it under control, what does that mean? You're never going to stop a person from wanting to come from this country. The only way to stop a person from wanting to come to this country is that their situation at home has to be better, or they feel that they can live at home. I mean,
I like that answer. I've said that before. I agree with that.
I mean, that's the only way. I mean, so again, now, granted, once they try to come to the border and, getting tied down and people playing political stunts, shipping them all over the place, yes, there is something that we can be done internally. But as far as, stopping the mindset from people wanting to come, that will never happen.
But here's the problem with that. While I agree with you that if their residence where they live was better, they wouldn't want to leave it. The fact is, we have so many different types of people: Guatemalans, Hondurans, Peru, Colombia, Mexicans. I mean, there's so many. You can't help all of them fix their own nations. If it was just Mexico, maybe we could make some better trade deals and help that country's economy. But it's got to be a dozen countries south of the border, and some are now Chinese, Somali, and they're coming from everywhere. You can't fix all those countries.
No, you can't. I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that at all. Now, I can, and this is for another subject at another day, how much did we play into the fact that some of these economies with some of these countries that, have passed down generation to generation that make them want to come here.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go there, but that's a whole nother topic for a different day.
Yeah.
But what I'm simply saying is that at the end of the day, whenever it does come down to this, as far as the economies and stuff are concerned, and I've seen in the comments, well, they're taking our jobs. I'm more of a person, and I can't believe it's so elementary to explain, and it's almost dumb that I have to explain.
I may have a pushback, but let me hear your spiel against taking our jobs.
Okay, so when people say that they're taking our jobs, now, I work a salary position. I don't know about you, but if you work a salary, and let's just say that, hey, you know what? I want to work one of those jobs that, some of the immigrants are having. Guess what? I'm going to demand a certain salary. You're not going to pay me peanuts. So if you're going to pay the American worker to do some of these jobs that are somehow being taken care of or taken away, they're going to demand a higher wage along with benefits. Guess what that does to the consumer? You're going to have to raise prices in order to do that. And guess what? The American public right now does not want to pay high prices for anything.
Well, and let me respond to it. I'll just tell you this. I go back to the 70s and 80s. I used to purchase computer. I've been, using computers go back well before the Commodore 64. I've always had a computer. When I first bought laptops, they cost, I don't know, $2,200, $2,300 for a good laptop. Now, because they're being made by Chinese, you can get them for a fifth of the price. The point I'm trying to make is when shit cost a lot, Americans still got it. I mean, I remember my dad buying our first 20-inch Zenith floor model TV for hundreds of dollars back in the late 70s. The fact is, maybe we don't need cheap shit. If you gotta give these jobs to other people or have everything made in China, maybe we need to go back to the point where Americans did the job, got paid a decent wage, and there was just some things that you couldn't afford. But there was a time, all of these jobs that immigrants do, that folks say, no American will do them because the pay is so low, there was a time when Americans used to do those jobs. They weren't always done by immigrants.
All right, look, me and you are Generation Xers, and we understand that. We understand the sacrifice. We understand that, hey, look, I can't buy this right now. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people that think that, the free market guarantees success. And that's not the case.
That ain't the case. Yeah, we agree with that. Yeah.
There is no guarantee that you will succeed in capitalism in the free market. But a lot of people right now do not understand that. And what's sad is there are a lot of Generation Xers that somehow grew up in the same era that me and you did, that somehow have forgotten that. And that's what it comes down to.
I can't answer that because I grew up in an era where my dad was union, and we know union jobs pay better. Hell, I do ride sharing videos on Uber and Lyft, and to me, Uber and Lyft are perfect examples of what would happen to the job market if there was no government intervention and you just let the free market rule. The salaries of an Uber driver compared to a taxi driver, I don't think Uber drivers even make half of what they used to make driving taxis. I mean, and taxis were heavily regulated by the government. Uber is not. And they're obviously doing the people and treating the people like shit. So I'm not a fan of the free market when it comes to employment, because the free market is the reason you have so much government intervention. It's because they weren't treating the people right.
You want to know what the greatest threat is, in my opinion, whenever it comes to jobs. And a lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. And Bill Clinton kind of alluded to this in his presidency when people said that, hey, people are going to have to learn skills. Automation is happening everywhere. I work in a manufacturing plant right now, and we got robots doing what humans used to do.
Yeah.
Even inspection. I'm I'm a QA guy. They even have robots and AI technology that can inspect. Think about that for a moment. So the main thing is that this is what the free market does. When the free market can take advantage of innovation and technology and reduce labor costs in order to earn profit, guess what? The CEO will do that. The CEO is not concerned with getting American jobs. No.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. For anyone that is thinking that the so-called job creators care about you, they don't. They care about profits and their shareholders. If they can employ one person that can do the job of 1 million, they would.
Yeah.
So all this stuff about immigration and all that, I don't want to hear that crap, because to me, that is not more than a distraction to get you to look the other way.
All right. So before I move it on from you, though, I want to make it clear. So you're suggesting that Biden versus Trump at the border, there really is no difference.
There is no difference. We've been fighting this battle since Reagan. And you said it earlier. Reagan, when this crisis first started, under Reagan was embracing the old line about, give us your tired, give us your poor,
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Of course, the marketing thing has changed now. And so the main thing is that, you will never stop people from coming here, because that marketing thing that is still out there right by Ellis Island or wherever that statue says, give us your tired, your poor, your
Yeah, that's on the Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
Yeah. So the main thing is, no, there will not be a difference. People will still want to come to this country until that day that we are no longer what we say that we are. And that day, I hate to say this because I love this country. That day is coming near that we're no longer going to be the country that people would like to come here. We're going to be just like everyone else. Period.
Wow.
I hate to say that. But
Wow. All right, Stitch, that's frightening, but I appreciate you coming through. You just depressed the hell out of me. Hopefully I ain't around when that takes place, or my kids.
I'm sorry, and I'll say this. Look, I love this country and everything else, but just like what you said earlier, I, for one, care about my kids. There are a lot of other things. We got health care that is in shambles that people don't want to do anything about. People don't want to do anything about rising college costs. People don't want to do anything about violence. And to me, if I had $1 million on my plate, if I could go to New Zealand and still be prosperous like I am now, and not have to worry about the violence and healthcare, guess what? I would be on the first thing smoking.
Fair
And that's
enough.
just facts.
And shout out to Russell Simmons. I appreciate you coming on, Stitch. Because he did exactly what my last caller suggested. I done it, and I do agree. I probably am in the same boat that if my income, my earnings was strong enough, I'd probably consider leaving America. Because I did leave America, and I had a wonderful time. I had a daughter growing up and wanted to reestablish a relationship, so I came back. But yeah, after living in Australia and living abroad, I definitely believe that America is one of the great countries out here. But when you hear us talking about freedom and things like that, as if America has a patent on freedom, no, you can be very free abroad. You can be very free in other countries. And I will definitely tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, when it comes to your safety, you can absolutely be safer in other countries. There are far more other countries you could be. Listen, I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. Take away the gun, it really helps me out a hell of a lot, don't it? I could be stabbed, or somebody could pick a bomb or run me over with a car, but listen, dude, when you take guns out of society, most of those societies are safer. That's my opinion. No, a hell of a lot of Second Amendment folks are going to disagree with that, but based on what I've seen, I've been down some of what they call the roughest streets in Sydney, and they don't hold a candle to the suburbs of Chicago or Detroit or Los Angeles. It is far more dangerous, in my opinion, walking the streets of America than it is New Zealand or Australia. That's just my humble opinion. Looking in the comments, Asia, China, Japan. Japan is really safe. Japan is really safe. I think somebody got shot there last year, and they said that was the second person. Only 2 people got shot in Japan the whole year. So, we've had 2 people get shot during my last caller. Two people got shot. Two people got shot in Chicago probably during the time me and my last caller talked. America has a lot of people getting shot. It really does. And our solution to the amount of violence in this country is to give more people guns to defend themselves against violence. There are people that believe the country would be safer if everybody walked around with a gun. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. But there are people who do believe that, up to and including make sure the teachers are also armed. Looking in the comments, most of the people in Japan are 5 feet. Yeah, but if you give them a gun, you don't need a midget. A midget can shoot up a building. You give them a gun. Remember, a gun is a great equalizer. It no longer matters what your physical attributes are once you start handing out firearms. That's the purpose of it. It's an equalizer. Looking in the comments, you can never trust your government to take care if you cannot defend yourself. That is something you hear. Now, that's usually from the right. The suggestion that you need a firearm to defend yourself if the government becomes tyrannical. I have several opinions on it. First of all, I don't think you're ever going to defend yourself against a tyrannical government with what you got on your closet shelf or what you got in your trunk of your car. I don't believe that'll work. And for a simple reason. America we've had the Second Amendment since the inception of this country, 1789 or something. The Second Amendment came along pretty damn quick. After all, it's the Second Amendment. It came along pretty quick. Yet in this country, you had folks that looked like me that were slaves. Women couldn't vote. Obviously, the LGBT community has been disadvantaged most of America's history. The point I'm trying to make is this. We've had tyranny all along. You've had the right to own firearms in this country from day one, and this country has been tyrannical to most of its people from day one. So I don't get where folks are suggesting that guns will prevent this. I don't see that, because we've always had that in this country. Looking at, and I see somebody in the comments says, here we go. Well, I'm just asking you, what is the definition of tyranny to you? If you can't vote, if the government stops you from voting, is that tyranny? If the government imposes Jim Crow laws on you, is that tyranny? That has been the way this country was ran, and you could own a firearm the whole time. So I'm just simply saying that having a firearm doesn't prevent that if a large portion of the country is in favor of doing it to you. It's always been there. So I don't know and I also don't necessarily buy into the argument that this country is loaded with monsters, and the only thing that stops the monsters from getting you is having a pew-pew. That's how folks believe it. If I don't have this pew-pew, my neighbor's going to hurt me, my kid's going to be hurt at school, the government's going to come and rise up and hurt us all, somebody's going to invade us. The only thing that's keeping my life sane is this pew-pew. There are people that believe that. That believe that the whole world would fall apart if it wasn't for what's on my hip, or on my back, or on my closet shelf, or in the back of my pickup, you name it. I don't know how to, because everybody else around the world don't have that mindset. They're not feeling like the world's going to fall apart if they don't have a pew-pew, but that's how we believe. If it wasn't for this firearm, the neighbors would rob me. My kids would lose their lives potentially at school, so the teacher should have one. The government would become tyrannical, or somebody would invade us. But this pew-pew keeps it all in line. People believe that. Anyhow, folks, you know what this is. It's a lunch break live. I appreciate the 72,000 likes. It's always a pleasure. You know what I always say. Could be anywhere you want to be on this app. It is a pleasure having you here with me daily. Monday through Friday is when we're here. So understand, if you enjoy civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle, without any concern of the host blocking, banning, trying to censor you or limit your time, follow this program, because we let the people speak. We never tell you what you want to hear. We listen to what you have to say. You guys have a good day. I will see you tomorrow. For you folks on YouTube, I do appreciate some of you folks been rolling with your boy the whole time. The YouTube thing seems to be more people are watching now, so I will try to keep up the show on YouTube. Understand, I'm doing it on YouTube with a tablet. And as you see, there's the back of, can I show the phone? Where the hell's the phone at? The phone is right here, whatever. But if you notice when we're doing the live stream, I'm looking off this way because the phone is right here. So I'm not really looking at the camera here on YouTube. But the comments do pop up. And occasionally I will read your comments on YouTube as well. For instance, Vernon says 2.5 million crimes are prevented by having a gun in the USA. Over 1 million cars are broken into or stolen per year. Japan doesn't have very many black people. Wow. Wait a minute. 2.5 million crimes are prevented by having a gun in the USA. Okay. Not to mention how many of those 2.5 million crimes that are prevented are being perpetrated by people who are carrying guns. So I want to point that out. Let's not just talk about how many folks are prevented from doing a crime with a gun. How many of them have a gun while they're doing the crime? Over 1 million cars are broken into or stolen per year. All right, I'm not disagreeing with that. But then you conclude by saying Japan doesn't have many black people. Yikes. So what are you suggesting? That if America got rid of its black people, the crime rate would go down? Oh my God. I wish well, look, the show is over with, but I do enjoy talking to you folks at the end. That would have been a certain conversation for fodder, but it is what it is. You're all welcome back. You know how the show runs. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone, and I'll make sure. Japan doesn't have many black people. Yikes. Appreciate you folks. Catch you tomorrow. Y'all take care.